This time on Snowmobiler television, we're here in New Brunswick, just hanging out and riding with some buddies. You know, like normal snowmobilers do.
STV is brought to you by Yamaha, revs your heart. Polaris, think outside. Ford F-Series, Canada's best-selling line of pickup trucks for 56 years. Tough, smart, capable.
We've been riding in New Brunswick for about a week now and have been having an outstanding time, just like we do every time we come to this province. We've ridden new trails in the Christmas Mountains and we've experienced some of the best riding conditions that we've seen in a long time. But this show is all about slowing things down a little bit just to go and ride with buddies and experience the fun of snowmobiling and camaraderie, which is something we haven't done in a long time.
The whole idea behind this ride with Polaris out here in New Brunswick was go have some fun, get a bunch of guys, go to your favorite place to go trail riding. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I was like, let's go to New Brunswick. There's always snow. There's mid-season, early season, and late season snow, lots of it. I've been bringing people out to New Brunswick for 15 years, 20 years now, and I get such a kick because everyone says the same thing. I've ridden trails everywhere. A trail's a trail. Yeah, it might be a little smoother, it might be a little faster. Everyone that comes out here, and we've brought them most far away, like Swarmy came in a couple of years ago from Idaho. The Scouts, he comes on this trip most times from Minnesota, but there's guys coming from Wisconsin, everywhere. And they all say the same thing. Holy shit, this is the best ride. I can't believe that you haven't told more people about this because it is phenomenal and the traffic's not there. Like when you're out there, we see more moose, like that's the truth. And so, but you can see like they're wide trails, so you can see when you get going on some of these trails, they're super wide because they're old logging roads and you're going, you're up and oh, it just brings smiles to everyone's face. It's the trip that everyone talks about for years to come.
You know I gotta leave soon. I'm rolling stone from a big town. Show me what you want, girl. Go ahead and let go now.
We've moved from the Bathurst area and the Atlantic Coast Hotel to Edmundston, which is in the direction of home for when this trip is over, but to also connect with our buddy Ross Antworth, a New Brunswickian, and someone who's ridden with OSM at least once every year for the past 20 seasons.
When Rich called me and said, hey, let's get together with all the crew, both OSM and STV, and we need a place to go in New Brunswick, I said, man, there's a ton of beautiful places, but let's go to the Edmundston region. And there's some great partners here that have really caught on to what snowmobiling's all about, and they want to see people, and they're catering to us. There has become this camaraderie, and the ones that are truly, truly successful, like the Grey Rock Entertainment Center here, all this area, like Aleer at Serpentine, and now I'm starting to name them, so I'm going to get in trouble, but they have formed wonderful friendships. And what happens, what's really neat about the snowmobiling here is that people begin to refer them as not the place, but as the name of the place. Well, where are you going? Oh, I'm going to Grey Rock. Or where are you going? I'm going to Serpentine. And if you're not a snowmobiler, you wouldn't even know where the frick these places are, because if you Google Serpentine, where's Serpentine? But it's part of the language. But what they understand is what snowmobilers want. They make themselves accessible. They try and build the facilities so that it's convenient and comfortable. And that's all part of the experience, and that's what brings people back besides the awesome trails. I've had over 50 years to be around snowmobiles, beginning with my dad. So that was the first connection, and I often think of him when I'm snowmobiling. All the friendships, I had a beautiful career out of it. It's just been so important in my life. But overall, it's the people, it's the travel, it's the experiences, it's just the atmosphere. As I've got older, yeah, it's still about riding the trail, still about putting some miles on. But really now, for me, it's about just the overall experience. I enjoy just as much sitting in a room with a bunch of friends eating Kentucky Fried Chicken or being on the trail side and you know, and somebody pulling a gig on somebody else, okay, as I do the riding. Because it's just that whole experience. I mean, and that's what life should be about enjoying yourself and having those moments.
Yeah, this is the first time I've been out with the STV crew. Obviously, the camaraderie aspect of the trip has been absolutely incredible. It's been a while since I've had the opportunity to come out in a group and get out there snowmobiling, and then just hanging out with the guys in the room. We had a lot of fun in the party room. Played some pool, played some foosball. Unfortunately, I had to let Rich win in an arm wrestling competition at one point, but just getting out there and getting back has been a lot of fun. Snowmobiling is absolutely a great way to get out, enjoy the winter, and get out with your friends. It's always been something I've loved, and the camaraderie on the trails and especially afterwards, it's second to none. It's amazing.
For this trip, we also invited Dan Scallett and his son Logan to come out from their home in Minnesota to ride with us. Dan is our senior test rider and someone who's raced and won on both two wheels and tracks. This guy is the real deal, and when he heard he had the chance to come back out to New Brunswick to ride on some new Polaris sleds, he was instantly in.
Coming back to New Brunswick, it's a great place to ride. It's a great place to ride. Brought my son with, first time he's been up here riding, and again, it's a shock for the cold. Dress warm, bring lots of clothes and multiple layers for sure, just to stay warm. You never know what you're gonna run into up here. Riding is fast, wide open up here. You can go see scenery that you wouldn't see back home. I'm from the Midwest, so this is very unique and exciting, and just the views and the camaraderie of being with friends and getting together again with personalities and shenanigans on the trail and goofing off and chuckling all day and all night, and it's fun to get away and forget about life back home.
Dan's son Logan, who's helped us out before on both OSM and STV as a test rider, joined his dad to make the trip to New Brunswick for the first time. I think he was impressed with the experience here.
Yeah, so I'm from Minnesota. All of our trails are either in ditches or across farm fields, so they can get beat up and rough, or sometimes even power lines and stuff like that. It's not like here where you have lodges you can warm up in and hang out, get together with people, or even, you know, ride out to a destination that's in the mountains or has, you know, something that's not next to a highway, where it's just different here. Cooler, more like inclusive to snowmobiling. Going snowmobiling with STV and OSM, it's great. Like, me and my dad ride a lot together, and so, but to have a group of people that are all get well really great, know how to have fun and still go riding, and it's just a good experience. You can't beat having a good group with people and friends to hang out with and ride.
This segment is brought to you by igrip studs.
For this trip, we're being treated to a first-class place to stay here in Edmundston, where the needs of the snowmobiler were considered even before the cornerstone was laid for this hotel. Now, it sure is nice knowing that you're welcome as a snowmobiler in your temporary home away from home when you're out on an adventure like this.
The reality of Edmundston is, for a hotel business, summertime is not a problem. We're always busy. The challenge was really in the wintertime, how do we increase our occupancy? And the one thing we have here in Edmundston is a lot of snow. So with snow, there was a market that wasn't really being tapped into. So what we decided to do is really to prepare a product that just going to meet as much as possible the snowmobile clientele. So we really decided from the very beginning, design a hotel to welcome snowmobilers and that they have, you know, a really good time here, and also have the basic infrastructures right at the beginning, so snowmobilers are comfortable, their sleds is safe. And basically, when I talk about a business decision, it's just that in the wintertime, since we have the snow, if we have a good product, snowmobilers will come. It's a little build it and they will come. As we knew the one thing we have at the beginning was we have snow. Yeah, well, the design is a new generation hotel. So basically, you might see those in other countries where they're new hotels, bigger chains. So in the hotel rooms, we've got USB ports all over the place, LED lighting. We also have a connector just for the TV, so you can put the smart TVs everywhere. Also, the big thing when you're talking about having different people in there and having some type of intimacy and not just hog the bathroom for everybody, the toilet and the shower is separate. So that's a big plus. So you can have two people, one can use a shower, another one can use a toilet without interfering with each other. So we also have got, I believe it's 15 garages where you can go from the back to the front. So there's 2 doors on each garage. We have a heated floor, a radiant floor. So basically you can keep your sled there at night. You wake up in the morning, it's unthawed, it's safe. And that's the big thing that the snowmobilers really enjoy.
When we go snowmobiling, it's all about fun. It's about the experience, it's about who you're with, and that makes the entire ride. I mean, snowmobiles are one thing, the trails are another, but it's also the camaraderie. It's who you're with. So every time we go somewhere, there's always a bit of an award ceremony. Somebody buys something that's pretty, like a weird product. Scarlett got it this year here for, he missed 6 turns, and I don't know how because he's got the 7S in front of him. He's riding a great snowmobile. I think he spent most of his time on the Assault. There's no reason why he spent so much time picking through the weeds. So he got a nice watch, retail value, $7.99 Canadian. And then the other award we gave was to the, it's normally a guy that crashes, but we didn't have any crashes this time, or like there was no accidents. You couldn't, like this, there was perfect conditions out. But one guy, he missed a turn and there was like a big ice pile there. Again, I don't know how they're missing these hairpins with the 7S. So when I went around, I just counted the guys. Blew the corner, made the corner, but slapped the ice. So that was pretty good. That was Drew Leonard. So Drew got he got a nice hat. It's got a horse on it and some horseshoes, because luck would have it, he didn't blow the corner. He was the only one in the group.
At one point, I may have misjudged a turn and got a little sideways and hit a small little snowbank before recovering and moving on. So I earned the horseshoe award this year, and I thought it would be a good idea to get it signed by the people of the trip. So little keepsake.
You know, everybody's got to get an award once in a while. It's Rich sets a fast pace once in a while, and when you're riding with Rich, you gotta watch out for those 90-degree turns, because sometimes it's just hard to make the turns, and you go a little deep, and you have to you know, chop down a few brush trees and branches with your helmet and sled, and you're kind of breaking your own trail. Yeah, and then I got a nice watch as a gift for going off into the toolies one too many times. 3-4 times.
You let me rip on him at home a little bit about his mistakes, but I don't think he's gonna let it go too far to his friends. He might let me tell my mom, but maybe not his friends.
One of the greatest things about it is all the shenanigans that go off, and you know, you never know when somebody's gonna put a chicken leg in your gear bag. That's the kind of stuff. Thanks a lot.
This segment is brought to you by CKX.
Part of the reason for this trip here to New Brunswick is to ride snowmobiles, specifically Polaris snowmobiles. So we got 4 of them with us. We got 2 new ones and 2 older ones. Now, we get wound up pretty tight when it comes to the production of STV or when we're writing articles for OSM, and Polaris wanted us to experience their sleds in a different way outside of that. So we're here in New Brunswick simply to ride, have fun with friends, and go snowmobiling for the sake of snowmobiling.
Yeah, after piling on the miles on these snowmobiles, I spent most of my time on the XCR, but the Matrix chassis itself, I love it. They handle so well. They just want you to go faster and faster. And the more you throw at a snowmobile like the VR1 or the XCR on the trails, the more it wants from you. Like, the feedback is phenomenal. And just when you're going launching off these lips and coming down, it's exhilarating out there. And these snowmobiles, these trail sleds, this is where they need to be ridden. It's phenomenal, and I encourage anyone to do it with an 850. Like, it will just bring a smile to ear for days. Well, sometimes there's perks with my job, and I get the first pick of all the sleds that are lined up. And there is no bad sleds. There weren't any bad sleds this time around. However, that XCR 850, it was phenomenal. And I'd race to that sled after every fuel stop because I was afraid of someone taking it. I mean, you can dial that suspension in, so it took away all those, like, if there was a bump coming, it took it away. And there's not many bumps here, but the handling, the front end on it is just something else. Like, when you just squeeze that trigger, you get a little bit of ski lift when you want, and it just goes. It was perfect. It was just, for me, on these trails and what we just did in New Brunswick with this, or we'll call it a hero ride, you know, you're riding so much, it was a perfect sled. Like, that was a go-to sled. So I put a little storage on the back, much like this one here, just a little trunk, you know, put some snacks and things like that in there, and my hat, and you can go for days. Like, it's just, it's a perfect sled if you're an aggressive rider. You don't have to have it really set up real super stiff, but there is a lot of adjustment with the suspension, and I would encourage anyone just to fiddle with it a little bit. You got to play with it. And guys like, you know, Dan Scala, he's raced an awful lot in the Midwest. I've raced a lot in Canada. And we've raced a lot of cross country over the years, and we both fight over that sled. I'm just a little faster because he's a little older. But yeah, for me, that is the go-to sled. And again, it used to be these, like the XCR used to always be a super stiff snowmobile, like these boy racers, if you will. They used to always be super stiff, super aggressive, where you look at it and you say, you know what, I don't need that. That's too much suspension. But this XCR this year on the Matrix chassis, it works. Like, you can just dial it back a little bit, because you don't need all the big, huge suspension that the guys are, like Aaron Christensen, their factory, Polaris' factory racer, terrain racer, you don't need the suspension he has. I mean, like, if you did, you're riding in the wrong location. You're not riding in New Brunswick. But for me, it's set up perfectly. And with the speeds that we're traveling, if you do hit something, and you will, you know, you will hit what we call a sucker bump or a spine tingler out there. You need that snowmobile to soak it up, especially out here when you're running the speeds that you're able to run. So that's where that sled comes in very handy. That was my go-to sled, and I didn't let anyone else really ride it.
I got a short time on the XCR. I took it from Rich at a gas station when he wasn't quite getting back to the sled fast enough, and I said, I think I'm gonna ride this one for a while. And he didn't look real happy when I took his sled. He was I think he was getting too used to it. So we had to slow him down a little bit. We had to put him on something a little bit longer, a little slower. And the Salt was, once I got on that, I really wanted to take that off trail. I wanted to head off into the Tules a little bit more to see what it would do. Definitely a different ride. The Salt is definitely longer, a little, not quite as cornering machine, but still, it's right there with everybody else at the speeds and stuff we were doing. This is more of a playful machine to go off in the trail, more on-off trail orientated, where you want to dive off into the deeper snow. You don't have to be scared to pull off if you want to do a turnaround, go off into the snow, the deeper snow, turn around, get back on the trail, or maybe take a little side adventure. Or even if you happen to go deep on a corner, you can get back out and back to the trail pretty easy, not worry about getting stuck.
Getting the opportunity to ride some of the best trails is only better when you get to do it on good equipment. Now, even though not all of our Polarises were new, that didn't slow our crew down at all.
Yeah, being the youngest guy here, I didn't always get my choice on what sled I get to take. So a lot of times I ended up on the Pro S, but it never gave me any issues, and it kept up pretty well until the new sleds, the new 850s. And I mean, there's nothing that I can really complain about with it. Riding the oldest sled didn't really sacrifice the experience. I mean, you still had great trails to rip up and down on, and you're still hanging out with a great group. I wish the Pro S definitely had the navigation 7S display. That would be very helpful. Definitely has different rear suspension. Generally doesn't bother me. I kind of like that it looks different from other sleds you see out there. Some people don't necessarily like it, but to me, it doesn't bother me, and it's kind of something different and makes you stand out from the rest of the sleds. Any day you're ripping on a Polaris is a good day to rip.
This segment is brought to you by Ford.
So you ready?
Yep.
I think I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Let's see if they're ready. So welcome back to Snowmobiler Television. We're coming to the end of our adventure here in New Brunswick, and just kind of wanted to wrap things up with Rich here and talk about how great it's been to kind of slow it down a little bit and just go snowmobiling with buddies again. I mean, we haven't been able to do that for a long time.
Absolutely, yeah, it was great to be here and just experience all the different aspects of the northern New Brunswick, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the reasons why we're doing this show is because Polaris wanted us to kind of, feature their sleds in a different way. And at first I was a little bit hesitant to that style of show, but I'm actually really thankful that we're doing it this way, because it got us out of our headspace with the normal throws of STV and OSM, and really just, we were forced to enjoy snowmobiling again, which sometimes is a little hard to do when you're making your living snowmobiling. But I thoroughly enjoyed the last couple of days. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great. And some of the features on these Polaris snowmobiles with the display, the 7S display screen, you can see your buddies, you can see where they are.
It's kind of actually fun to do that.
You can see Scallop blowing corners and missing things and all that.
Well, he wasn't blowing corners. He had to go to the washroom.
Yeah, he was finding a private spot.
Yeah,
it was fantastic. And also you could see the way the trails went. So
it actually worked out really well. I mean, we're trying to find places to shoot along the trails, and pretty good that way.
The moose, we definitely saw
lots of moose
than we did snowmobilers, which was
it's true, actually. Yeah. How many? There was like 8.
Yeah, 8 moose and no snowmobiles, and
one sleeping on the road.
Probably did 1,000 kilometers or so.
About
maybe more, and I wish we could do 2,000. Not that we're counting kilometers. It's all about the quality of the trails, quality of everything.
Mm-hmm. I forgot how much fun it is to go snowmobiling, and this trip really reminded me about how good snowmobiling is, especially when you got a good group. Unfortunately, though, it's our last night here in Edmundston, and we got to pack all of our stuff up after everything dries and start heading back home, which also means we got to get back to work. So we're going to continue that on the next episode of Snowmobiler Television.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Yamaha. STV has been brought to you by CKX, wear your passion. Schaefer's, specialized lubricants since 1839. Best Western Hotels and Resorts, ready to get away?